Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Deejay and in today's video we will learn letter writing, which is General Writing Task 1. I will give you the tips, the structure and how you should write a letter to get good marks. In the last video I discussed Writing Task 2, which is same for general and academic. The academic Writing Task 1 I will be discussing in a day or two. So let's get started. In letter, you will be given a situation and you have to write a letter. 3 bulleted points will be there, which you must include in the letter. They are kind of direction, they are kind of a question that you have to solve. So what happens is we have 3 kinds of letters: formal, semi-formal and informal. The formal letter is written when you know someone in a formal way and you have never met them, you just don't know anything about them. Just a formal way of writing. This is the formal letter. The second one is semi-formal. In this type of letter, we write these type of letters when we know someone in a good formal way, but the situation is formal. So there we use the semi-formal tone. The third one is informal. Informal letter we usually write to someone we have a close relationship with. They can be a friend, can be a family member. We know them personally and the situation is going to be personal. So this is how we write a letter. And this is how we come to know which type of letter is there and how we have to write it. We need to understand which letter is this, like formal, semi-formal or informal, so that we can keep the tone. We can write in the same tone that is being asked. Okay. After this, we need to understand how the letter has to be started and how it has to be ended. Like salutation, what salutation should be there and how we have to sign off. Okay. In the formal letter, we start with dear sir or madam because we don't know the name. This is how we do it. After that, we close it with yours faithfully. And then in semi-formal, we write dear Mr. Brown, dear Ms. Johnson. Like we know their last name, so we will be writing it, and the closing is yours sincerely. Informal is we know the name of the person because they are friends or maybe they are from our family, so we can write their first name, dear Sarah, dear Adam, and closing will be dear, best regards or warm wishes according to the letter. And some students, they have the confusion. They are not able to remember that how we have to start and how we have to end. So there is one trick. For formal, this is F, the ending will be with F, faithfully. This is S, semi-formal, the ending will be sincerely, with S. So this is how you can learn this thing. If you are able to understand the letter, if you're able to understand it's a formal letter, it's a semi-formal letter, it's an informal letter. So you know the tone, which tone is to be used, which salutation, what you have to write and how it should be closed. So you have to understand the purpose, you have to understand the tone. This is really important. Okay, and in formal and semi-formal, you have to use a formal tone. In the informal, you can use contractions like I'm. These contractions you can use in informal, but in these two, you have to write I would, I am. You can't use contractions in these two letters. Informal and semi-formal, you have to use this way of writing. And in informal, you must use contractions. This is really important because the tone matters. Okay, so this is how, and this trick which I told you, with F and S, you need to understand, you should learn it. With F, the closing will be yours faithfully with F, and semi-formal with S, the closing will be sincerely with S. Okay, so you can see it. After that, we are discussing the letter format. In this, what we have to do is, this is for formal, this is for semi-formal, and this is informal. Dear Sir, dear Mr. Brown, dear Sarah. You have to understand, this is formal, this is semi-formal, and this is informal. Okay? So the way of writing is going to be same. What we have to do is, in the formal and semi-formal, we will start with the purpose of the writing. That why we are writing. Suppose if we want to apply for a job, then you will start with the same tone, that I am writing in connection with, I am writing this letter, the reason, whatever the reason is for writing, you will discuss it here, purpose of writing the letter. And then in informal letter, because it is informal, we know the person, we know their family. So what will we do is, I hope you and your family are all well. You have to add one sentence that is informal, and then you will state the purpose of writing. Same we have here. Like suppose if you're inviting someone to your home, you're inviting your friend, so that will be the purpose of writing, that I'm writing this letter to invite you at my home for the coming vacations. Whatever the reason is, whatever the purpose is, you will write here. Okay, after that, this can be two sentences you can write here for the purpose of writing the letter. Whatever the purpose is, the same goes here. But in the informal, you have to add one informal sentence to let the examiner know that you know how to start the informal letter. This is the only difference in the starting, in the very first paragraph. Okay, after that, what we will do is, in the BP1, you will discuss the bullet point 1. In the BP2, you will discuss the bullet point 2. BP3, you will discuss the bullet point 3. Okay, and then one closing line, one single sentence. If suppose in formal or semi-formal, you want an action, you want something to be done, you are maybe you want to write, like suppose you're complaining something, so you want some action to be taken. You have bought something from somewhere and that thing is showing some problem, so you want some action to be taken. So that will be your closing sentence. You will write it here. I look forward to hearing from you soon. This is how you do it. After that, the closing will be for formal. The closing will be yours faithfully, like I told you. And for semi-formal, it will be sincerely. And this is for informal. Best wishes. What you will do is, yours faithfully, your name you will write. Yours sincerely, you will write your name. And here BP1 bullet point 1, BP2 bullet point 2, BP3 bullet point 3, the same closing sentence will be here as well. So best wishes and your name. And one more important thing is there, that some students by mistake they forget this L, or sometimes they forget this E. They do some mistakes in faithfully and sincerely. So be careful with this. Note down the spellings. These should not be incorrect, because you will lose bands if they are incorrect spellings in your writing. So this is how we write a letter. This is the format of writing. Now it's time for the quick tips. So the first tip is to open and close the letter correctly. Like I told, that you have to use the dear sir for formal, dear Mr. last name for semi-formal, and dear first name for the informal, and the closing faithfully, sincerely, or warm wishes according to the letter. It should be perfect. Okay, after that, work on spelling and grammar. This is really important. If you're aiming for 7 or 7+ bands, spelling and grammar, they should be accurate. Okay, then we have to use the right tone. Like if we are writing to someone who we do not know, we have to use the formal tone. And if you're writing to some friend or a family member, the tone has to be informal. That is the thing. But there is one more thing. If suppose we are complaining someone, there is something, the mistake has been done, but we cannot be aggressive. In that situation also, we have to keep a very mild and calm tone. This is what is checked. Okay. Then we have to write 150 plus words and we have to complete it in 40 minutes. 150 is the minimum word count, but you should write 170 to 180 words. That is appropriate, because if you write less than 150, you will be penalized. But if you write more than 150, that is okay, but that is gonna waste your time. So you have to keep this time frame in your mind that you have to complete it in 20 minutes. So what I do is 4 minutes for the planning, 12 minutes to write, and the last 4 minutes for the proofreading. Like if there are any mistake, like grammatical mistakes or spelling mistakes, that can be done, it will take 20 minutes. Planning, writing, proofreading, this is must. Proofreading is very important, because sometimes what happens is when we are writing, we do some kind of spelling mistakes. Even if we know the spelling, we do. So proofreading is the must. This should be done. Okay. Then include all 3 bulleted points. This is really important. Sometimes what students do is they do the planning, but while they are writing, they omit some bullet point because their word count is increasing. So what happens is they leave one bullet point. So there are chances you will be penalized. This is must. So you have to include 3 of them. That is why I suggest that you should make different bullet point, different paragraph for different bullet point. So it will be easy for you to understand and to check that have you included all of them. And then you have to understand the scoring criteria that I have discussed in my last video. In the writing task 2, I have discussed the scoring criteria, that how our writing is checked. Then practice is the key, because tips are not going to work unless you are doing. What you have to do is you have to write, you have to get it corrected, because we have tips. A lot of tips are there on the internet, but the main thing is we need to understand that where we are lacking. We have 4 criteria: task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resources, grammatical range and accuracy. If we are lacking in one of them, then our score will be less. So we need to understand that in which criteria, in which way we are lacking. So practice is the key. You can read the sample letters, but do not memorize anything. Make your own sentences, because the examiners, they come to know that if something is memorized. So be careful with these things. So these are the tips that you should follow and write every single day. Okay. So this is the most important thing, IELTS letter writing checklist, that you need to understand after writing the letter. While you are doing practice, you need to understand that have you followed this checklist of spelling. Sorry. Okay. The first thing is, have I read and understood the instructions? Have you read it correctly? Do you understand that what instructions are there, what you have to do? The second thing is it a formal, semi-formal or an informal letter? This is the most important thing. You need to understand it's a formal letter, semi-formal or informal letter. Have I made a plan? Did you plan it before starting to write? This is really important. After that, have I included both the reason for writing and 3 bulleted points? The reason for writing and 3 bulleted points. These are must. Next is, have I supported each bullet point with relevant details? Whatever the question, the bulleted points were, have you provided relevant details? Is it relevant with the question? Next is, have I used appropriate language? Is my language, is my tone appropriate? Am I being aggressive if it's not needed? And am I using informal tone in a formal letter? Or if I am using formal tone in an informal letter? So you need to understand the language as well. After that, have I separated my letter into paragraphs? Because I told that you need to make different paragraphs. So you need to understand the different paragraphs should be there. And when you are writing, suppose this is your paragraph, leave one line, second paragraph, leave one line, third paragraph, because it looks legible and the examiner can come to know about where you're starting your paragraph and where the paragraph is ending. So this is really important. You can write it or you can take a screenshot, because this is, I think, if you are working on this checklist, so you can get your desired band score easily. Now the 8th point is, are my ideas clear and easy to understand? You need to see that your ideas must be clear and they should be easily understandable as well. Next is, have I avoided copying the grammar and varied my vocabulary? If you are repeating something, the sentences, the tenses, and if the words are getting repeated, that is wrong. You will lose bands. You need to avoid copying the grammar and you need to give a wide range of vocabulary. Next is, have I checked my letter for grammar and spelling mistakes? The most important. After you have finished writing, you need to check your letter for grammar and spelling mistakes. The proofreading, the last 4 minutes for proofreading. This is how you will get good bands, and you need to ask yourself these questions, that have you done all of these points before you finished writing? Because if you do these things, so you will understand and you will implement all these things in your letter writing. If you have any doubt or any question, you can let me know in the comment section. And if you found this video useful, please like, comment and subscribe, so that you can come to know about the new videos whenever I post them.